So guys, to begin with in this segment for what's new for the week in the automotive world, we have Ford coming out with this patent, well filing a patent I guess. It's very interesting. It's for a drone that you can deploy from your car's trunk. So they say in the patent that it'll be stored in the trunk and it can be charged there while it's not being used. And it's for when you're in an emergency or something like that, you get in an accident, I guess, or stranded. It can, I don't know, go find someone, find help. I'm not sure, but that's what it says. And it can follow the vehicle as well. So, makes sense because everybody's getting more and more drones now. It's not just military applications now, civilians have them now to make videos. It's very interesting. So we'll see where it goes with that. It'd be nice to have if you're like off-roading and you want to see where you're going, I guess. Especially with that new Bronco coming out, should be exciting. Next up, we have the 2020 BMW M8 Grand Coupe. And this car is set to begin being produced in November. And in America, deliveries will begin in like early 2020, so I'm guessing first quarter maybe. And it's a sedan. They already have the coupe version of it, an actual two-door. This one's a four-door. Wheelbase has been increased by like around 8 inches. So it is longer, and it's actually cheaper than the coupe by around $3,000. And of course they will have a competition version of it. It's around 133,000 is what it starts at US, which is quite a lot of money, but it's a car that combines performance and utility, in my opinion, very well. Also, it has that same twin turbo V8 that makes 600 horsepower in the normal one, and if you want the competition, it's bumped up to 617. Both of the models see torque at around 550 foot-pounds. So, and they say 0 to 60 is in around 3 seconds, which is pretty low. I mean, these are big cars. It's just nice to see like this blend of, like I said, utility and performance. And there's a bunch of little things. You can get the carbon ceramic brakes if you want, but that's an option. And there's the M drivers package, which increases the speed limit from, for some reason the Germans like leaving the speed limiter at 155, but this one will increase it to 190. I'm pretty sure the car can easily do that if it's making that much power. And it'll come in that awesome looking green paint, of course, if you choose to get it. They call it diamant green metallic paint. So, and I mean, the other thing is if you get it with the carbon fiber roof, you don't get the sunroof. And it is all-wheel drive, but it's more like rear-wheel drive biased, if you get what I'm saying, which is nice. But if you want to drive it every day, I guess maybe you could. But you want it to feel more like a sports car. Like I said, it's that blend of utility and performance once again. It should be interesting to see it. M8 is new. I mean, I don't even remember when they used to have 8 series. Last time they had 8 series was a long time ago, and then now we got the 8 series, and finally the one everybody's been waiting for was the M8, and now the Grand Coupe is back. So, we'll see how it goes. Next up, we had the Chevy Corvette C8, but it's the racing car, so the C8R. And it's not the car itself, it's the motor it's powered by that's interesting news that I should mention. So it's a flat plane crank that's a 5.5 liter V8, which is very interesting that Chevy's making the move to that. They say it has dual overhead cams, so sounding like a voodoo motor kind of, but of course it's the Chevy version, and I wonder how it'll turn out because Chevy's been known for their push rods mainly, not for their dual overhead cam engines, especially flat plane crank. That's a very high revving motor. But all we know about it for now is that we're not sure if it's going to come in the production cars because there's no answers about that yet. So far, it seems like it might be a C8R only thing. But it makes 500 horsepower and 480 foot-pounds of torque, and that's through all the racing restrictions that they have. So maybe it can make more, we're not sure, in a street car application, but for now, it's just another 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8 that we might not even ever see in a production car, which is pretty sad. But you can see the actual car, the C8R, it looks crazy, like, looks insane. It's the gray with the yellow striping on it and everywhere, and the massive canards on the front, the big rear wing, of course. And I'm not sure what you would call that on the side, that wedge part by the door in the rear quarter panel. The air ducts, I guess I'll call them. They're pretty dramatic on this car. And it doesn't even, the rear bumper doesn't even cover the rear tire all the way properly. So this car looks like it's ready to win races. But overall, sound, it'll be interesting. There's I did hear one. I did have a chance to hear one, and it sounds like an F1 car pretty much to me. It definitely does not sound like the good old pushrod V8s. It sounds very different. Another car I'd like to talk about is the Mirai. So it's a hydrogen fuel cell Toyota, and it's pretty cool. And basically what it is they're trying to make it more luxurious and performance based than the last generation one, or the previous Mirai. And it's crazy because it just shows like if big companies like Toyota really want to make this zero emission future possible, they can because they have the funding. And it's gonna start with big companies like them first. That's why we see all these automotive manufacturers moving towards like sustainable fuels like electricity and stuff in their development, like such as GM. GM's another big one, as well as Ford. So this car is I want to say it is a Toyota, but it definitely has like Lexus styling in it. It's a bit bigger than a GS, and the old one used to start at a base price of around 58,500. I think you can only get them in America, but it's a hydrogen fuel cell car, so there's no emissions at all, and it's very convenient. So they say the new one you can fuel in 5 minutes, and it'll get the range of like a fossil fuel car equivalent, which should be very interesting. They say it'll be like around over 400 miles of range. And so you can see it looks very different. It looks more futuristic. The styling of it is very interesting. And the Toyota engineers, of course, they're crazy. They tested it in, I think this is very important for cars, like they're like running on electricity or hydrogen fuel cells or whatever. They took it to Yellowknife and they tested in negative 40-degree weather, and it started. And it worked. Like that's amazing for a car like this. Like internal combustion engine cars are struggling in that, and I guess they will work if you leave them plugged in. People do drive cars up there in Yellowknife, but it can kill the car. Or I mean like prevent it from starting because it's so hard to crank the starter in that cold weather on the battery. And so I seriously feel like it's the future. Hydrogen fuel cells, in my opinion, are are in a technology that needs to be what do you call it? Made more practical. It just needs to be refined. It does exist now. It is very real. We're definitely headed that way. And that's why I felt like I should mention this car in this week. So right now they're just showing the concept. And then later on, the Tokyo Auto Show later this year, they'll unveil the production ready version of the car. Like the actual car you're gonna get. But for now, this is just the concept of production preview, I guess. So hopefully they keep it as much as like the preview car or the prototype, whatever you want to call it, the one they're revealing right now, the one you're seeing in the pictures right now. But of course, they have to change as we often see the difference between concepts and the actual production. But the technology does actually exist now. It just needs to be refined out to be made more practical like fossil fuel cars. We are there now. And for the rest of the video here, I'm going to cover news on Aston Martin, because they are one of my favorite brands. So what we have here is the new James Bond, of course. James Bond and Aston Martin are both tied together, like the films, the James Bond franchise. So apparently there's some kind of anniversary for the next Bond film that's coming out. And Aston Martin is putting in 4 of their cars. So we got the DB5, which is that classic looking one, and the V8 Vantage. What, I don't know why they would put in a V8 Vantage, but it's the classic one, so whatever, I guess. Anyways, and then we got the new interesting DBS Super Leggera, or Leggera, I don't know how you want to say it, and the Aston Martin Valhalla, which is a very special car. So the DB5 is, you might have seen in previous Bond films, it's a very classic looking one. It's the same one, I think, from the 1964 film Goldfinger, so I'm not sure. So I think they'll probably have all the gadgets, of course. And then the V8 Vantage is coming back from the film The Living Daylights. And it's like that boxier looking design from the 80s, but looks cool. And then of course the exciting one, the mid-engine Valhalla. And it's pretty much an F1 street car. So it's mid-engine and it's got a V6 turbo hybrid system going on. So it's a cool looking car. I mean, I can do more about that later if you guys really want to know about Aston Martin. And then of course we got the Super Leggera, which is I think the crazy one that makes a lot of power, around 700, 720, around there somewhere. I can't remember right now. So it should be an interesting film. And then of course next up we have the car they just revealed, the DBS GT Zagato. And the Zagato here is, Zagato is basically like a Italian designing company, or house designer. I mean, not house, like in-house designer, sorry is what I meant to say. And so they've done cars before with Aston Martin. And apparently it's like around, they've been together for a while now. The last time they worked together, I think, was with the DB4. So it's been a while. But basically this car is, it comes in this special red called Supernova Red. And it's only exclusive to the Zagato. And it comes with those interesting looking gold rims, and the main highlight of this car is just the design of it. Like, just look at the way the colors are done. Like you can see in the pictures, including the interior. The interior is like magnificent. But other than that, it's pretty much the same underneath as a normal DPS, but it's got around 760 horsepower. It's a V12, 5.2 liter. As far as I know, it's an Aston Martin unit. The only Aston Martin only uses AMG V8s, not the V12s, so it should be interesting. But this car is very good looking. It's just mainly a looking car. And, well, I mean 760 horsepower. If that isn't enough, then I don't know what's enough for you. Otherwise, that's it. It's mainly just for design. And one last thing I'd like to talk about is the Ford Bronco. So Ford told us back in 2017, around there, that we're gonna be getting it in 2020 or something like that. But Ford has been pretty quiet about the information. We only have the one teaser photo they released, which is of it under a cover. But it seems like the Bronco will be competing with the Jeep Wrangler, since the Bronco is gonna have like removable doors and stuff, and roof like the Wrangler. It'll be offered in 2-door and 4-door versions as well. So it's really starting to sound like a Ford version of the Wrangler. What we know so far is that it was leaked that the underpinnings will be Ranger based, so that also means that it possibly could get that same 2.3 liter 4-cylinder engine, the turbo one, that we found at the Ranger. So right now it makes around 270 horsepower and 310 foot-pounds of torque in the Ranger application. It does make more horsepower in the Mustang, but that's a different car. And based on that, I guess it could come with the 10-speed automatic. We're not sure. But it will be based on a truck platform like the Ranger, I'm sure. And we'll just have to see how it goes. It has a rear-mounted spare tire. It's definitely like an off-roading kind of car. Ford will do something different with it though. Interesting enough, it will be offered as a hybrid apparently. So we'll see if that works out. And it could be offered in a pickup version like the Jeep Gladiator. So once again we can see the Wrangler versus Bronco, how they're going to be similar. But it's very exciting to have the Bronco come back. It's a very legendary SUV. And it makes sense in Ford's move away from cars to bring back the Bronco. So we'll see how that goes too. And that's all I have for you guys for new information in the automotive world this week. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for your time.